All right, everyone, thank you for joining us today. And we are really excited to have Matt Mackowiak. He is the founder of Save Austin Now, ATXPulse.com, and he has been instrumental in the charge to bring Major League Baseball to Austin. Now, Matt, you have quite a few things going on in your life and quite a few ventures you have going on. But I kind of want to focus a little bit on each of these different avenues that you're working on. But let's talk first about Save Austin Now. Now, I know that it's probably one of the largest grassroots, right, organization that Austin has ever had, which is basically, it is dedicated to try to keep our local governments accountable for the decisions they're implementing in our city. And I think probably my biggest question is, why don't you give us a little history on who you are, and why you started Save Austin Now? What was kind of that push of like, hey, I need to do something and I need to do it in this platform?
Yeah, great. Thank you, Tracy, for having me. It's wonderful to be here. Appreciate what you do with this podcast, bringing business owners and community leaders here to talk about important issues and connecting it to real estate. I grew up in Austin. I was not born here. I don't often admit that in a recorded setting, but you can't help where you're born. But I moved here when I was 4 years old. My dad got a call from a headhunter and had an opportunity to go work in the law department at Motorola. And at that time, Motorola was an incredible Fortune 100 company, and he had a great career working there and then working at Freescale. So we moved to Austin when I was 4. We moved to Northwest Travis County. My parents selected the home that they bought for the schools. My dad had a sense that the Round Rock School District would be better than the Austin School District, so he was willing to drive further to work for the schools. So I attended Laurel Mountain Elementary, Canyon Vista Middle School, and Westwood High School, all 3 of which were National Blue Ribbon while I attended. I'm probably in the 0.01% of Americans who can say that. So that kind of experience really fuels a lot of the gratitude that I have and the drive that I have to try to help our city. I then attended University of Texas, right, a land grant institution that has significant stability and wealth because of the way it was formed. Was able to have a fantastic experience at UT. Spent 10 years in DC. Now spent 15 years back. So, but for Save Austin Now, Save Austin Now is a nonpartisan organization, despite what some of our detractors say. And the way that you know that is that my co-founder Cleo Patrisek is a very committed Democrat, and she really despises Trump. And really supports the Democratic agenda at the national level. And I have the opposite view, but it's to us, we believe that national politics is irrelevant to local issues, or at least it should be.
Right.
The question of whether our neighborhoods are safe, or whether our roads are sufficient, or buying homes are affordable, or whether we have enough police officers is really not a partisan question. And in fact, these offices are nonpartisan. There is no primary.
Right.
So 5 years ago, around the time that the city passed the camping ordinance, which lifted the camping ban, which had been in place for 17 years, which the police department said had 91% voluntary compliance, Cleo and I sort of became aware of each other. I really became aware of her first. She mobilized as a sort of a mama bear to try to stop the location of a homeless shelter 0.3 of a mile from a majority-minority elementary school in South Austin. And I saw her very effectively fight that, just as one individual with no organization, no funding. She did start a group. I think it might have, I forget if it was called Take Back Austin. Actually, I'm sorry, it was called SAFE Project, SAFE. And as I kind of watched her in awe, that she was able to hold these town hall meetings. She'd shame the local council member for not going, and then that person showed up. She'd shame the police chief for not going, then he'd show up. The mayor eventually showed up. And in the end, she was successful in organizing enough opposition, not because we're anti-shelter, but because we don't want shelters near schools. We don't want them near nursing homes. We don't want them near parks. Just makes good sense to not have them near vulnerable populations. So we launched Save Austin Now with the goal of fighting to improve quality of life for every Austinite, period. If it doesn't affect quality of life, we don't get involved in it. We don't get involved in partisan races. We only get involved in local issues and helping local candidates. We are the largest grassroots organization in the history of Austin. We have over 9,000 individual donors. We have over 65,000 email addresses. We have massive social platforms. And we have thousands of Austinites that look to us to educate them about what's actually happening at the Capitol. Right. We just passed our 30,000th email sent to the city council and the mayor just since January of last year. That's not even over the whole 5-year period. So I mention all that just to say that there is a silent majority of Austinites that just wants sensible mainstream policy at the local level. They don't want radical left and they don't want radical right, and neither does Save Austin Now.
Right.
We want an affordable city. We want a safe city. We want enough police officers. We want our first responders to be supported. We want the transportation infrastructure to be adequate to the number of people that live here. And we want accountable and transparent government. That's it. And I think if you ask people, do you support the things that I just said? 70% of the people that live here would say yes. So, we're excited about all the things that we do. We do some things publicly. We do a lot of things privately. We fight as hard for our first responders, I think, as anyone has ever fought in this city. And we're proud of that. We're 450 officers down from when the defund the police vote occurred in 2020. We are at 1,800 available officers. We're around 1,350 today. We'll probably be at 1,300 by the end of the year. And so when you are concerned about safety in Austin, which I think everyone in every neighborhood is concerned about it, if you're on Nextdoor, if you've ever made a 911 call, if you know someone who's had an incident happen, I can't tell you how many women have talked to me and Cleo, particularly Cleo, but both of us, about incidents that they've had happen to them or they've had happen to a friend or family member. It could be downtown. It could be anywhere. We need more police officers. We're making some progress there, but we have to turn that around. We have a great new police chief that started just this week. But we got so many other things that we're working on. But we're excited to do that work. It's a privilege for us to do that work. Cleo is an absolute warrior for victims. The thing that motivates her is she wants victims' rights protected. She wants criminals to be put behind bars. She wants our community to be as safe as possible. And so when she wakes up in the morning, she thinks about that. She grew up in South Oak Cliff in Dallas, the poorest part of Dallas. Her best friend was shot in front of her, shot and killed in front of her when she was, I think, 13 years old. She's worked in around those populations for a very long time, and so she understands what it's like to be poor. She understands what it's like to be a minority. She understands what it's like to be a Latina, and she certainly understands what we're facing in Austin. And so she's been just a fantastic partner. And again, the reason what we do is nonpartisan is if we don't both agree, we don't do it.
Right.
And I'm a committed Republican. I know that people don't like that. Some people like that. Some people don't like that. That's okay. She's a committed Democrat, and the same is true there. I really think the national stuff is irrelevant locally. We just have to focus on solutions.
Yeah. Well, and I think y'all are such a testament to proving to everyone, and this, especially in the time we're in now, right? When it comes to these new elections and, people running for office, I always see people just get so bent out of shape, right? Whether you're far left, far right. And I think in these times, y'all are proving that, listen, we can have views on the left, views on the right, but we can come together and all agree that we are more similar than people think. We all agree on more similar issues than people think. And I think it's so tumultuous right now. You see people on social media going back and forth, defriending friends because you support Trump or you support Kamala. And it really is a shame because at the end of the day, if we just got together and really, really said, hey, this is where we're all at. Like you said, I would say it's probably more than 70%. I think you have a good chunk of people who agree on issues, whether their political views align, with the party that they support. So I think that you guys are such a testament to be saying, hey, look, we're on both sides of the aisle, but we can all agree these are the issues that we need to get out. And y'all are submitting unbiased news, right? You are proving, we all know the media can be biased, whether it's one organization or another. And you guys are really doing a fantastic job of getting unbiased news out to people to say, hey, look, this is what's really happening in your community. There's no smoke and mirrors. And I think that is just an amazing feat that you guys have taken on. And I love that you guys both say, hey, listen, if we don't both agree on it, we're not going to talk about it.
Yeah, and look, it took time, early on for us to establish that trust. I remember there was a time where I think I maybe posted something on social media about immigration, and I think I might have done it through the Save Austin Now page when I meant to do it on my personal page or something. And it was a real test of our partnership very early on. But we've been great partners all along. We've been great friends all along. Again, we have a strong disagreement about the national election. That'll be over in 50 or 55 days, and it'll go one way or it will go the other. But in the end, when we wake up on November 6th, Austin will still need to take on the challenges we're facing, many of which are coming because of the explosive growth that we're experiencing. with seriousness. And I think one of the most powerful things Save Austin Now has done is we've given people a chance to get involved in city life, in the civic future of our community, in a way that they can manage. I mentioned the 30,000 emails. We make that very easy for them. We educate them on a weekly basis about what's going on at City Hall. Cleo and I both are developing media stories about crime and other issues in our city all the time that we're not quoted in, that we're not mentioned in, but she connects a victim to a reporter to tell that story. There's so much that wouldn't be happening if we weren't committed to doing this work, but we are, and the reason we are is that we both believe Austin can be a world-class city. It has the potential to do it, and the choice that Austin faces is we've seen 10 or 12 major American cities objectively fail. They're failing on different trajectories, on different points because they started at different times. But if you look at San Francisco, Los Angeles, Portland, Seattle, Honolulu, Chicago, DC, and New York, those cities are all failing. They may still have great things about them. New York City is amazing to visit. DC has so much great history, and they have other great things. But fundamentally, in terms of quality of life has been objectively, measurably declining in all of those cities. Well, they've all been putting the same policies forward now for 5 or 10 or 15 years. So Austin can look at that and say, okay, we know that doesn't work. It hasn't worked there. What we hope Austin will do is try to replicate the models that are succeeding. There are models in Miami and Phoenix and Nashville and Dallas that are clearly succeeding. And so that's what we want to do. And we want to stay focused on smart policy, on mainstream policy approaches, on solving problems, and give people a chance to either support good ideas or oppose bad ideas, support good candidates and oppose bad candidates. And we're working on that. We've got big council races ahead of us. Mackenzie Kelly's reelection is, I think, the single most important in our city. She's been the vice chair of public safety. She's been their champion. She's running against a fairly radical candidate that was recruited by our former mayor, Steve Adler. So getting her back is important. We're looking at the other 4 council races. We'll see how those things shape up. We have some opinions about some of those candidates as well. And then, of course, the mayoral race really doesn't appear to us to be shaping up to be competitive in any real way. I mean, the mayor has, it appears to us, convinced enough people that he deserves a 4-year term based on the things that he's done. He fired the head of Austin Energy and improved it. He fired the head of Austin Water and improved it. He fired the head of the Austin Airport and improved it. He's made permitting for development much, much better by doing the McKinsey study and implementing most of those recommendations. Has he done everything the way I would do them or Cleo would do them had we been king of Austin? No. But he's also had to work within the confines of the existing council.
Right.
And he had to do a tremendous amount to make the city function. The city was broken internally from a governance standpoint at a level that I think even he didn't fully appreciate, having not been at City Hall for a while. And so that's why he moved to the interim manager, Jesus Garza, one of the most respected people in the history of Austin, and now bringing in our new manager, T.C. Broadnax, who had been a manager in Dallas, and now bringing in a new police chief with 30 years of experience in Cincinnati. So there's a lot there to unpack and talk about, but we're excited about the potential for the next mayor, the next council, and we're going to be working extremely hard, as I said before, to improve quality of life in a measurable way for everyone.
Right. Well, and too, I was, when I was kind of looking at Save Austin Now, and even, ATXPulse.com, which is your newsletter that has over 105,000 plus followers on it, or subscribers, which is fantastic. But, it's not just about, left, right, or, when we talk about politicians, y'all even talk about like road infrastructure, right? Like, how can we improve our road systems to where, we look at Dallas, right? Dallas was fantastic at future-proofing their networks.
Yes.
Which is why Dallas tends to be a little more affordable, because they started expanding in places there was nothing there. There were no schools, there was nothing, but they started expanding tollways, roadways, which means you created a fantastic road system, and then you basically, it's like you build it and they will come.
Yeah.
Is essentially what happened, which is why we're seeing, if I go back to a real estate standpoint, I think not only just the affordability of Austin in and of itself, but it's really hard in Austin. It's like this, right? Yeah. It's hard to kind of expand out. And Dallas did this. It's like a grid, right?
Yeah.
And they created spaces to where people could have great quality of life that was definitely more affordable. I feel like we get a lot more pushback here from some of the smaller towns, like on the outskirts of Austin, which I'm sure Travis he lives in Lockhart, can attest, that sometimes you get more pushback in these smaller towns because they don't want their small town to be,
taken over. Yeah.
Yes, taken over.
Sure.
But, when you talk about creating quality of life, right, and creating affordability in Austin, you're going to have to figure out a way to create, which is also good for the community, right?
Yeah.
You create more income coming into it. But that is also something you guys touch on, right? Is how to create on all different aspects of life and quality of life. I got an email from someone at our Engel Volkers headquarters in New York. And she asked me, she said, hey, there's this list of young couples and younger people, and they're moving to these specific states. Why are they moving to these states? What do you think the common, denominator is? And of course, on the top of the list is Texas and Florida.
Yep.
And just based on, state income tax, quality of life, pretty much your dollar can go a lot further in some of these states compared to a place like California.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the dollar, but the dollar does really affect everything, whether it's, the size of house you have, with the backyard, with, inflation, we all know has hit everyone. Just being able to, I think I told someone this last week. We were in Colorado. We were actually in Aspen, and I went to go buy maple syrup, just pure maple syrup. And it was $19 and some odd cents.
Yeah.
Same one that I would buy here in Austin for $9.
Yeah.
And you're going
that's
same
Aspen for you,
brand.
though.
Well, yes, but that's what I'm saying is
Yeah.
inflation is everywhere, right?
Sure.
But in those specific places and specific cities, but you take a state as a whole, you're going to see your dollar doesn't go as far.
Yeah.
Which is why it's so important with what you guys are doing to try to keep why people love Texas and these different states, like to keep the local governments accountable. So I think it's important for people to understand that you guys do everything. You guys are advocates for everything when it comes down to not just politics, but of course to our infrastructure and quality of life and affordability.
Yeah, I mean, all these issues connect, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at why affordability has gotten worse in Austin, it's not one thing. It's a kind of a toxic cocktail that's all combined.
Yeah.
There was kind of a powerful group in Austin when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s that decided they liked Austin the way it is. It's a sleepy college town. We'll keep it weird. And if we don't build it, they won't come, right? Which is why we did really no major infrastructure improvements to build for the future, no smart planning, no smart growth for decades. Now, I think Watson started to change that in the early 2000s, but then he went on to the Senate, and I think after that, we had a couple mayors, certainly Lee Leffingwell and Lee Cook were serious people, but we have not adequately prepared for the tsunami of people and capital that has come in, and so now, because we didn't, it's harder to do those things.
Yeah, we're just behind.
We're behind. We're kind of behind the curve and behind the 8 ball, and so. On the infrastructure side, the mobility bond passed in 2014. It was supposed to be done this year. It's not done. I imagine a good number of people who are listening to this or watching this either live on 360 or work on 360. You know that 360 is basically no different than it was in 2014. They are now doing some work, but they were supposed to have adaptive signals and left turn lanes and widening those roads on 360. 360 is a hellscape at rush hour, particularly in the evening. Well, if you live in the west or southwest side of Austin, that's really the only way for you to get probably where you need to be. It's a major, thoroughfare. So it's not just that we've done poor planning, it's that we've also had a really tough time executing even the things that we have. Project Connect, to me is, we support mass transit. Cleo and I and Save Austin Now support mass transit. What we don't support are mass transit plans that become debt bombs that don't work. Project Connect was, I think, intentionally dishonest in terms of the way it was sold to the voters. They did no work ahead of time. It was sort of sold as a dream. It's now much different than it was proposed initially when it was voted on. But at the time, that plan was going to displace 300,000 of the million people that live in our city. Well, how many of those people that voted knew they were going to be displaced? Because that thing passed 65 to 35. My guess is none of them. My guess is not one of them knew they were going to be displaced. No one would vote for their own displacement. But now it's basically going to move 1/10 the number of people it was going to before, but it's going to do it at 150% of the projected cost, right? So, no business person in any line of business could look at something that says, okay, for this amount of riders at this cost, that's one option. Or 1/10 of the riders at 1.5 cost, that in any way that's an acceptable outcome. It's not acceptable.
Right.
And look, there's a lawsuit, and there may be another vote, and we'll see. But rather than build the entire system, I think what Austin should have done is done what Houston did. Houston took one line, and they built it, and it was a disaster, and they improved it. And they earned the confidence of the electorate and the elected officials. And then they did another line, and then they did another line. And so I recognize that it gets more expensive and it gets more disruptive if you wait, but it would seem to me, where do we need mass transit? We need it from the Domain to downtown to the airport in that triangle, primarily. That's going to get a lot of people moving.
Right.
Are there other things that make sense, going south, going further north, going to the soccer stadium, going to campus maybe? Those kind of things certainly are potential options. But if we just focused on just downtown to the airport, let's just do that. Let's take 5 years and just do that.
It's like a case study almost.
Yeah,
Let's do a small case study.
What can we learn from it? How can we become more efficient? What federal money is available? So look, we could do an hour on Project Connect. It's probably not useful or productive, but it, and then the affordability piece is part of this too, right? Because if you don't address affordability, which you can only do through supply and demand, right? The laws of economics apply whether you like them or not, right? And so we have had an insufficient supply of housing for a long time, 10 years, 15 years. That is why homes are unaffordable. It's also because of the taxes that are part of it. We have the real estate taxes, as you know, in Austin, far outpaced Dallas and Houston. And then the time to build. It's a year and a half, or at least it used to be, a year and a half on average to build a new home in Austin. Well, in Williamson County and in Hayes County, it's on average 6 months, right? So if you're a person that can't afford to buy a home that already exists or want to build your own home, most people can't wait 18 months. And of course, you're not able to, those builders are incentivized to go to those areas because they can build 3 times as many homes. So what are we doing by doing that? What we're doing is we're forcing people to move further from the city center, adding more cars to the road, traveling longer distances to get from point A to point B. I mean, it's literally the opposite of what you would do if you were trying to be strategic, right? So look, they're doing some things to improve permitting, and I think that has gotten better in the last 12 months from the developers I've talked to, and that's a positive thing, but there's still a long ways to go. And affordability is the single number one issue in the city. We poll all the time, and I see polling all the time. It is the number one issue in the city. The number 2 issue is public safety, which you can include homelessness in that. And there are other issues that are important too, but if our city just stopped doing things that aren't responsive to those issues, we could get so much more done. If the mayor just said, or the council just said, for 3 months, we're going to do nothing but just try to improve affordability, public safety, and transportation. Nothing else is going to be considered. Nothing's going to be on the agenda. We're not going to do any committee meetings on it. We're not going to do anything. We just focus on these 3 issues. They could get 10 times the work done. But if you go to a council meeting, there's 200 items on there. 170 of them have nothing to do with the 3 issues I just mentioned.
Right.
It doesn't mean it's not important things. But it's a question of time and prioritization and leadership. And so, again, we try to stay focused on these core issues that affect quality of life. We don't have a monopoly on wisdom. We don't have every good idea.
Right.
But we are willing to fight. And that is, I think, the other thing that sets us apart is when we see something that is bad for public safety, we will fight like hell. Not everyone can do that in their own business and their own life. We understand that. But if you want someone out there that's fighting for these things, for mainstream policy, for solutions, Save Austin Now is a way for you to do that, to support us. You can learn more at saveaustinnow.com. Get in touch with us directly. All of our contact information's on there. You can be in touch with us. But we're excited to continue doing the work we're doing. Yeah,
and I think y'all are doing fantastic work.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's talk about your newsletter, ATXPulse.com. So, I know that it's always been a free newsletter, right?
Yeah.
Free subscription service. And I know you're kind of changing that just to kind of help offset the efforts you guys are doing, right?
Yeah.
But ATX Pulse is really a place where people can get news, like on the inside, right? You can be an insider and see what's going on. But what do you think sets your newsletter apart? Like, do you think it's because you've got great, reliable resources that you really you get straight to the point, you get the information out there? What do you think is going to set you apart from everyone else?
Yeah, so I think it's one thing primarily. It's that very few people have the time or the attention to wake up and check, all 4 local TV stations, check the Austin Monitor, check Austin Business Journal, check Community Impact Austin, check the social sites like Eater Austin or Culture Map, check the Statesman, and make sure that they're understanding all the important things that are happening on that day. We check 10 or 15 different sites. We decide what we think the things are that people need to know, not with any ideological view or any personal view. It's really, our tagline is everything you need to know about Austin. And we deliver it to you every day. I think we're 2 or 3, I can't remember when we started. Maybe it's been 3 months. It was a free product when we started, and that is part of how we've grown the list. But it does take an hour to an hour and a half each day to do it correctly. And so, we have a good model. We do have some advertising on there, but we are moving to a paid model. And so the way that will work on October 1 when we shift is that we have stories and story summaries on there that make it very easy, that in 3 to 5 minutes you can get a full brief in the morning when you wake up, maybe late morning, that you're catching everything. It also has things like a job of the week and concerts to see tonight and sports news and other things. So we really want to be kind of comprehensive. But what we're going to do is basically just have headlines and links for free for the free subscribers, but have the story summaries, for everyone else. So that's the model we'll move to. We're excited about the growth we've seen. We've gotten tremendously positive feedback. But we think that Austin is a growth market, right? If you think about maybe the 2 or 3 hottest cities in the country, it's Austin and Nashville, and then maybe Miami, although Miami's kind of coming down a little bit. Austin and Nashville are the cities of the future. Mm-hmm. They're in states with no state income tax. They have state governments that are focused on growth and aren't doing crazy things. They're very attractive places to go. They're fun cities. They're hip cities. They have great food scenes. They have great live music. There's so many attractive things about it. Attractive to young people, attractive to older people who want to live downtown, et cetera, et cetera. So we're excited about trying to build a product that people will find valuable, that gets them smart quickly, and we're happy to do that. It also forces me to read a lot, which keeps me well educated every day about Austin, which has a benefit for me as well. But I think we're doing $5 a month, $50 a year, $190 lifetime as our price points. And there obviously are our advertising opportunities there as well. But no one was, as far as I can tell, I don't know that anyone was really doing what we were doing the way we were doing it. I'm sure there are other things, podcasts out there and other newsletters. The problem is that an individual media organization wants to promote their content. Right. And look, KXAN is the strongest TV station in this market by far. The Statesman is the strongest newspaper in this market by far. They want their content out there. They don't want to be promoting other people's content. We understand that. The problem is there's good content across the board.
Right.
I can't tell you. When I'm looking at these news sites, particularly the 4 TV stations, there's a lot of overlap where they're all doing the same story. If there's a terrible homicide, they all have one story about it. But every day they all have a couple really important stories that are unique to them, that their assignment editor assigned, or that their editor thought was important, or that a reporter got a story from a source. And so again, how many people are watching the 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock news on all 4 channels? No one is. You're lucky if you're watching it on one channel every day.
Yeah.
Right? So it was about making sure that people here are well educated about what's really happening in our city. And we think there's a million ways that will benefit people.
Yeah.
Right? A business idea, someone you need to go meet, a concert you didn't know was happening that you want to go to tonight. I'm going to see, I don't know when this is publishing, the band Keane from Britain tonight, which I'm excited about. They're doing the 20th anniversary of their Hopes and Fears album. So I'll be able to introduce Amy, my wife, to Keane, a band that means a lot to me. There probably are people out there that remember, Somewhere Only We Know, the song that was big 20 years ago, that would like to go hear that band perform.
Right.
So they're going to see that. They'll go to the ACL site. They'll go buy a ticket tonight. I love that there's like a million ways that it can kind of benefit an individual person.
Yeah.
You can't even predict how it might affect an individual person. But so far the feedback's been great and the growth's been great.
Well, and just, I would say even for me, so I am a unicorn. I'm a 5th generation Austinite, which I think you need to give yourself a little more credit. You've been here since you were 4. You're still probably a rare breed.
Yes,
okay?
1984 was a long time ago. Yes.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, 40 years. Good Lord.
But all that to say is that I'll have people who come and visit and they'll be like, Tracy, you are born and raised from Austin. Where do I need to go eat? I'm going, I don't know. I live out in Bee Cave and I got 3 kids. I don't know what the newest restaurant is or this. And so for someone whether you're visiting, whether you've just moved here, only been here 5 years, or like myself, born and raised, this would be so helpful because, it's giving me a snapshot of everything I need to know, right? Even if it's like, oh, these are concerts happening or a new restaurant or this. But also I think if you go back to the news aspect, I feel like today, I'm a millennial, but I would say that I feel like a lot of our generation and below, the younger generation, we're just not informed. We don't know what is going on. We don't know what policy this is. You go to the ballot, you vote, you're like, what is Prop B really support? We don't really know, right? Like you said, if people knew that they were going to be displaced, they would have never voted for that. So I think in all aspects across the board, whether it's nightlife, concerts, restaurants, what's going on in our community, to have one place that you can look at it is so beneficial. Just because I think time is so valuable for us. It's like you have only 24 hours in the day, but how many hours you really have to do things.
Yeah.
And people are always on their phones, right?
Yeah.
Like you talk about watching the news. Who sits down and watches the 5 o'clock news anymore?
Right.
So I think it's a brilliant idea. And especially I love that you guys kind of curate the content that you think is, again, non-biased. It's, not trying to promote any agenda, but you're highlighting things that you think would be valuable to people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Austin has a disproportionately high percentage of its citizens that are college graduates. Mm-hmm. And we also have, as high a sort of digitally engaged population as almost any city.
Right.
Right. And so the challenge is not whether people are educated enough to want to read and be up to date, or that they're digitally connected enough. That's actually not the challenge. It is the challenge that you identify, which is, I remember I was assigned a book in college at UT called Data Smog, and I graduated in 2003, and the premise of the book was that all this new technology was going to actually make it hard to be able to separate sort of the signal from the noise, meaning that there's so much information. How do you find good information? How do you find what you need? How do you not waste time trying to find it? AI tools are going to make that much easier in the future. But even back then, I could start to see that. And that's true now, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, how many emails do you get to your Gmail account every single day? I get hundreds, if not thousands, even though I unsubscribe to things. And maybe I'm a part of the problem because we have a lot of newsletters, a lot of emails we do. But generally, again, the idea behind the newsletter was to deliver to people everything they needed to know about Austin. And that's true if you are coming here for a bachelorette party this weekend, or, you have friends coming in, or you just want to be an educated citizen that knows kind of what's going on in the city where you're choosing to live. And look, we're not the only place that's doing this. We based this a little bit off of a model in Boston that we found. It's not perfectly the same. It's actually somewhat different, but we took some concepts from it that we like. But, we wanted to also create a product that was really going to be dominant in this market. We thought there'd be value to that. And I think that's going to be true. I think we'll be at 200,000 subscribers, by the end of this year, which is unbelievable. It's an unbelievable audience. It'll be the largest email newsletter probably in the history of Austin, I would think. I can't imagine there's something larger than that. So maybe UT's subscriber, season ticket list or something. So let me put that as an exception. They're on a different category. But, but we're excited about, what we're doing, and we hope people check it out, ATXPulse.com. The paid site is ATXPulsePremium.com.
Okay, awesome.
Hey, I'm Brandon Sparks with Nautilus Lending, based right here in Central Texas. We're a full-service mortgage operation and brokerage, serving Greater Texas as well as Florida and Tennessee. One of the greatest things about our shop is our ability to facilitate creative financing. What that means is that anything legally possible, we can get it funded. You want to find out more? Reach out to us, www.nautiluslending.com. That's www.nautiluslending.com.
I think this is a great segue into your other big initiative, which I know you've been working on for a while now.
Yeah,
probably,
6 months.
Yeah, 6 months, is trying to bring Major League Baseball to Austin, which I feel like what you're doing with the ATX Pulse newsletter, all the reasons why, all the great things about Austin, right, of what people need to do, you're basically re-engaging that and then probably trying to promote that to, hey, this is why Major League Baseball should come to Austin. Mm-hmm. So why don't you tell us a little bit? I know that Major League Baseball is, for the first time since, 1998, is thinking about creating a new Major League team.
Yep.
And I know that we're probably one of the top cities on their list. So why don't you tell us a little bit how you got involved and how this initiative is helping trying to convince them to bring it here.
Yeah, so it's a shame my co-founder at the Austin Baseball Commission, Derek Fox, isn't here because this was really his idea. And it was really his drive, at least initially. We're friends because our wives have been friends for a long time. He came to our wedding in Charleston, went to their wedding in Austin down at Cedar Street. And he called me in February and said, are you aware that Major League Baseball is going to expand by 2 teams by the 2029 year? And I said, no, I'm not. I said, doesn't surprise me. I'd heard that expansion was something that could happen in the medium term in baseball, but I didn't know that. He said, did you know that Austin is regularly mentioned as one of the most likely U.S. cities? I said, No, I'm not, but I'm not surprised given where we are. We're now with the 11th largest city in the country. We just got passed by Jacksonville. But he said, well, did you know that Austin has no visible presence, meaning no website, no community effort, no nothing? I said, no, I'm not. I didn't know that because I didn't know that about expansion, but it doesn't surprise me. Mm-hmm. And there's some critical things I could say about our city. I'll leave for another day, but I'll just say this. Austin has missed out on far too many things because we've been poorly led for a long time, particularly in my view under the mayorship of Steve Adler, where the city did not do even one single economic development deal for 8 years. And so, I don't know why, but fundamentally, we spent 3 months after he proposed the idea of doing something, looking to find out what was actually happening. Is Austin in the mix? What are the real factors? What is the real timeline? What is it going to take? What other cities are in the mix? Is anyone in Austin doing anything real? Mm-hmm. And do those people have credibility, and do they have the ability to get it done? And the conclusion that we came to before we launched this, right before the All-Star weekend, I think that was in June, is that no one is really doing what's needed. No one's pulling the community effort together. No one's really taking this on with seriousness and focus and credibility. And so Derek and I launched this. Derek is I guess something of an Austin transplant, although I think he's been here 6 or 8 years. He's really a baseball fan. He grew up near Cooperstown. He follows the league very closely. He knows a lot about the different media markets, knows a lot about the league, knows a lot about ownership. But he knew he needed someone sort of like me that understands how the city operates, who the players are, how we can really take the idea and really make this an unbelievable community effort. So look, I'd say a few things at the outset here. Austin is the largest city in the country that does not have a top 4 sports franchise. Mm-hmm. Austin is the 11th largest city in the country. We were 10th. We'll probably be 10th again. We'll probably overtake Jacksonville, but we're right in there. We're also the fastest growing large TV market in the country. And so when you look at the other cities that have been regularly mentioned and that actually have visible efforts, Nashville being one of them, Salt Lake City being another, we think those 3 are the top 3, probably right now Nashville, us, and Salt Lake City, based on the intel that we've gathered. But there are other cities. There's some international cities. Vancouver's made some noise. Montreal's made some noise. Mexico City would be the largest city. But I don't know how organized any of them are, and they all have unique challenges. Of the U.S. cities, Austin's the largest that have been regularly mentioned because the other cities include Charlotte and Orlando and Portland. Austin's the largest of all the cities. We're larger than Nashville, right? And so, but the real question for the league is going to be, what markets do you want to be in 10 years from now? And what markets do you want to be in 20 years from now, right? And I think you can look at Austin and Nashville and conclude those are the 2 best markets by far, right? Those are both going to be top 10 cities. Austin might be a top 8 city. Austin's going to overtake San Antonio in the next 10 years. So we'll be 7th or 8th largest city in 10 years. And Nashville will be right behind us. But really the challenge was, how do we pull together the most significant community effort the city's ever seen? I was on the periphery of the Major League Soccer effort, did a little bit of work on that, got brought in to do a little bit of work on that. I can tell you that was very hard to do. I happen to know 5 of the 6 co-owners personally. The only one I don't know is McConaughey, but I know the other 5 personally. It's a great group of people, and civic leaders, business leaders. Major League Soccer's been great. Amy and I have Lexus Club season tickets. We've had them every year. We love Major League Soccer. The stadium's fantastic. It's been great for that area. There are 25,000 people on a season ticket waiting list for a stadium that holds 10,000 people, right? And that's soccer. And I'm not trying to be demeaning of soccer. I love soccer. I watch English Premier League on Saturday and Sunday mornings. But
it's not very big in the U.S.
It's not very big in the U.S., and it certainly does not have the fan base that Major League Baseball has. Now, the financial element here is significant. Mm-hmm. Tracy, we're talking about a minimum $4 billion enterprise. We believe that the expansion fee is going to be $2 billion at minimum. It could be a little higher. We believe that the stadium, for a 40 to 45,000 person retractable roof stadium, would be in the $1 billion range. You would have some incentives probably as part of that. And then third, you're going to need probably, we've been told, $1 billion for operating costs. And that's because you have to have a major league team and all 3 levels of minor league all at the same time. So, from our standpoint, we need to do 3 things well, and we're going to make substantial, measurable, significant progress between now and the end of the year. The first is we wanted to get the community and the fan support aspect up and running. And so our website, ATXMLB.com, is up. We have 125,000 email subscribers. We have 1,000 people who've made season ticket requests. And that's with no advertising whatsoever. That's just been bootstrapping and organic. We have 160 people now who have said they want to be on one of our 6 committees. We're doing a launch event on Saturday, September 21st at Buford's downtown. Bob Woody, the godfather of the downtown bar scene, is on our leadership committee. We'll do a large kickoff there at noon. We'll unveil our leadership committee. We'll have some significant people there, and we'll talk a lot about the effort. So anyway, look, I don't want to give you the whole story when we get into questions, but there's a lot there. But number one, we have to do the community and fan support. We're going to continue to build it up. Second, I know you want to talk about sites. We have to narrow in on sites that can work. We can come back to that. And then third, and most importantly, we have to pull an investor group together. And the league is going to want someone to have a controlling interest, which means probably in the $500 million to $1 billion investment range is our expectation. And so, we're working through a list of 40 to 45 people that we think have that kind of potential in the Central Texas region. That's not something that you cold call on. It's not something that you do without strategy and focus. You want to approach these significant individuals in the right way, with the right people at the right time, with the right team. And so we're putting those elements together. And we hope and expect to be light years ahead of where we are even right now by the end of the year.
That's amazing. And do you think that the proof is kind of in the pudding? We brought Austin FC here, right?
Yep.
And like I said, soccer's not a big deal in the U.S., right? Or we just have never really produced amazing soccer players. I know it's growing, and the interest in soccer and just the talent we're creating is definitely on the uptick. But the way Austin FC blew up was, I think, a little, not shocking, but I think it was a little shocking to a lot of people, and just the fan base and the following that it's created.
Yeah.
And you take that here in Austin, and then you can use that almost as like, hey, here's another case study of something that is not very big in the U.S., but baseball, especially in Texas, let alone baseball, is like probably something that everyone does, whether, when it comes to T-ball all the way up to guys leagues in their 30s. I mean, it's a big deal here. Do you think that has are y'all using that weight in presenting that to the MLB?
Yeah, that'll certainly be part of it. To a certain extent, like the first argument is what I said before, which is the quality of the market, right? Because in the end, the league and the owners that'll make the vote, and it'll be 30 owners who will vote on this. They're going to decide which 2 cities to award these teams to, and they're going to do it based on the value it creates for their teams and the value for the league, period. There are factors they will look at. They want to see if it's an effort that's supported by the governing officials in the communities. Is there significant community support? Is there a site that can work? Is the site 45 minutes away from downtown?
Right.
I don't want that. We don't want that. If that ends up being the absolute best option, and it's either don't get a team or do that, we'll do that. But we don't believe that's what we're going to require. But we can talk about that in a minute. But you're right. It's also that Austin. The other reason it's going to succeed is that Austin has been a successful city for baseball for a very long time, and at the core of that is University of Texas. University of Texas is probably the most successful. USC might be first because they've had, I think, more national championships, but it's probably the first or second most successful college baseball program in history. Right, we often call ourselves University of Texas at Omaha because we've been to Omaha for the College World Series more than any other university. And so that tradition, right, with Roger Clemens and Spike Owen and Calvin Schiraldi and down the list, Brooks Kieschnick, guys that went into the big leagues, Houston Street from a newer generation, so many guys that have gone to the big leagues and become stars. The fact that Dish Falk is an iconic baseball stadium, the fact we're moving in the SEC, which is the top baseball conference in the league. So it shows that there's a core interest in baseball that's here. Absolutely true with Little League. I played town and country when I was growing up. We have a successful RBI baseball for adults here and for kids as well. We got stadiums all over the place. But again, I think those arguments, the baseball argument is probably a second tier argument. The real argument is, are we growing? Do we have an ownership group that's serious? Do we have a site or two that can work? And is this a market that the owners want to be in? Salt Lake City is 1/5 our size. Okay, Salt Lake City has 200,000 people. Right. And if you go out 2 hours in every direction, it gets to 1 million people. Well, we have 1 million people in the city of Austin. If you go out, you don't even have to go 2 hours. You can go 30 minutes in all directions. You get to 2.5 million people. these owners are smart people.
Right.
They're billionaires. They've had success in whatever industry they were in. They're running a baseball team, which is not easy to do. It's 162 games. It's a relentless schedule. To think that they're going to choose a city that's 1/5 our size, I have trouble seeing that.
Right.
The only way that would have happened, Tracy, is if our city wasn't serious in putting a serious effort together.
Right.
So all Derek and I wanted to do was be the spark that would ensure that Austin puts the single strongest bid forward that we can. I almost look at this like the Olympics. You know, cities either bid or they don't, and they either put serious bids together or they don't.
Right.
And that's the opportunity we have here. And look, let me make one other point, and that is, I don't know that we're going to have an opportunity to get a major league sports team in Austin in the next 10, 20 years, except this.
Right.
And it has nothing to do with Austin. It has to do with very unique factors. There is absolutely no history of hockey in Austin. They're expanding. They're going to Houston. Houston is the fourth largest city in the third or fourth. I think it's the fourth largest city after Chicago in the country. So that makes a lot more sense. I can tell you, the University of Texas and the Cowboys and the Texans are never going to allow. They would die trying allowing Austin to get an NFL team.
Right.
I think if we're going to be a third NFL team in Texas, probably go to San Antonio. They already have the Alamo Dome, and there have been efforts to try to get an NFL team there. Basketball is really tough with the Spurs being an hour away. And, there was a lot of chatter that they may move to Austin. They're building a downtown stadium. I imagine that team's going to stay there for the foreseeable future and maybe forever. So baseball's it.
Right.
And as you pointed out, we haven't had expansion since the late 90s. And so they want to go from 30 to 32 teams because they want to get 8 divisions of 4. And so once you get to 32, well, if they add 2 more, then they have offset numbers. So what are they going to do? They get to 36. That's a lot. That's 9 divisions. What do you do then? That screws up playoffs and kind of the symmetric quality of the conferences. So my point is, this is the last train leaving the station for Austin getting a top 4 sports franchise for some time. If we don't get a team, could the Miami Marlins or a small market team or the White Sox or something eventually get purchased and moved here? Is it possible? Sure, it's possible. What year that is, what decade that is, totally unknowable, right? We know this is happening. This is our chance. And what we're going to do is we're going to put the most credible group together that we can. We have elected officials from all kinds of levels of government. They're going to be part of this. We've talked to both the mayor and the mayor's office. We've talked to Opportunity Austin. Anybody that wants to learn more about this or wants to get involved, go to our website. You can sign up for our emails. You can express interest in season tickets. If you're interested in joining our leadership committee or helping in a more specific way, contact us directly, which you can do on the website. My contact information is generally pretty easy to find. I may regret doing this, but my email is matt@potomacstrategygroup.com. So you can contact me directly. And I'm also on social media. I'm easy to find. But, we want this to be the most impressive, broad, serious community effort that's ever existed in the history of Austin, because this is the largest economic development project for Austin. It's not just about the $4 billion. It's about 81 home games occurring at that site, bringing tourists in, filling up restaurants, filling up bars, all the other activity that comes from that, right? I mean, the advertising that's associated with the Tier 3 cable rights. I mean, someone somewhere will be able to tell us what the economic impact of baseball will be. It's going to be a massive number. Right. We have to put our best foot forward, and that's why we're doing this.
Right. And I think it's important for people to understand it's not just about providing, your bids and et cetera. The fact that you're getting the community involved is the reason why, is to show, hey, look at how many people want this in the community to be here. Which you're going to show, hey, we're going to have a large fan base. So again, I'm going to echo Matt. Please, please, please go to atxmlb.com and try to get involved, because this would be so great for our community. Yeah,
come to our kickoff Saturday, September 21st at Buford's at noon. The Aggies and Hornets both play at night. You got no excuse. If you go out Friday night, you should be up by noon anyway. But yeah, come to our kickoff. Get on our website. We'd love to get more people involved.
Yeah, no, for sure. And for us,
we have merchandise on there too. We're selling merchandise too. So.
Well, and I guess for us too, like being a real estate company, of course, the location is probably key, right? So that probably, in your mind, do you feel like you'll have a good idea of to where you think it would make sense for them versus being 45 minutes out of town, or has that not really been solidified yet?
Yeah, so it's not going to be up to me or up to Derek or up to the Austin Baseball Commission. It's going to be up to the investor group. Right? The investor group is going to, with the league, what we're trying to do on the sites is we have a list of 10 or 12 sites right now, anywhere from Williams County to Hayes County, but most of them are going to be in the central core, because we really believe the central core is where this needs to be. It's going to have the most significant economic multiplier effect. It's going to be the most civically aligned. It's going to be the easiest for people to get there. If you put it up north, you make it almost impossible for anyone in South Austin to come because they're going to be traveling an hour in each direction, right? You put it up north, you put it down south, it's the same thing in reverse. You put it in the center, it's basically, it's something that's easy for almost everyone to get to,
right?
Reasonably easy, and the economics make the most sense. What I am simply not going to do today, which we're not going to do for a while, is get very specific about sites because that's how you create local opposition. People freak out. There's absolutely no reason to freak out right now. We're so early in the process. What I can tell you is, let me see how I can describe this. There are at least 2 sites by the airport. There's a site by Coda on 130. There's 1 or 2 sites, let's call it in East Austin, East Central Austin, let's call it, and then there's at least 1 site in Southwest Austin. All of which, and there's another that's on the river east of downtown, all of which would be more than adequate.
Right.
The site needs to be a minimum of 80 acres. For a state in that size to do the mixed-use development that you want to do, you want to have affordable housing, you'd want to have retail, you want to have a hotel, all those kinds of things.
Right.
You'd look for, the Texas Rangers. I was up there for All-Star Weekend. Have a setup that's probably a good model for us.
Yeah.
With the new ballpark, they knocked the original ballpark down to build a new ballpark because they wanted a retractable roof so they could have air conditioning. Because they did the economic study and they found that people will not go when it's 100 degrees in the summer, and baseball's played in the summer primarily. So we're looking at 80 to 100 acres needed. And so in my mind, in my dream was to have a downtown site with the skyline in the background like you have in Pittsburgh and Denver. There simply is not an 80-acre site downtown. It might be hard to picture 80 acres, probably not for you, but think about the original UT campus. We know that was 40 acres, right? So you'd need an area twice that size. That land doesn't exist. And the cost for that land would be so astronomical, would never make sense. It'd be the same cost probably as the damn franchise would be in expansion. So downtown is almost certainly not going to work. When I say downtown, I mean 35 to Mopac and MLK to the river.
Yep.
It's not going to be in that quadrant, okay? Absent some amazing idea. And if you have an idea, let us know. But the central core to me is south of 183, west of 130, north of 71, and let's say west of 360, right? That's the central core in my mind. And so the sites that we're the most excited about fit in that category. There are 3 sites in Williamson County, all of which would be adequate that we know of. And we have not yet gotten to the Hays County point yet. The Hays County point would be attractive because you would be making it easier for people in San Antonio to come.
Yeah.
Right? So that is an attraction level. But again, you're making it a lot harder for people in North Austin to come. And so the question is, you can have more people in North Austin support an Austin team, or you can have more people in San Antonio support an Austin team. The answer is North Austin. Right? So this has to be an Austin team for Austin residents, for Central Texas residents first. And so that's what our focus is going to be. So what are we doing now? We're working through those sites. We're looking at issues related to them, environmental issues. Is there adequate transportation infrastructure now? Who owns them? What does it cost? What governmental bodies are involved? What incentives would be needed? The last thing I'll say on sites is I would say there are 3 sites that we believe have many, many, many attractive features, and so far have very few unattractive features. And so we're focusing our time and our attention in that area at this point. But we want, when the investor group comes together, whether that's a month from now, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, we want to be able to present to them, here are the 12 sites that we've investigated. Here are the 3 we think make the most sense. Here's why. And then they'll hire experts and they'll move forward. But we don't want them to start with a blank sheet of paper. Right? Because again, the other thing we found that I'll quickly tell you is one of the things that really frustrated Derek and I, it's not just that Austin was disorganized or unorganized. It's that these other cities weren't. Nashville and Salt Lake City were 2 years ahead of us. Nashville and Salt Lake City both have, today as I sit here, ownership groups, identified sites, and massive, significant community and fan support through online websites. When we started this in June, we had none of those things. And I think by the end of this year, we're going to be pretty close to where they are. Or certainly by the middle of next year, we'll be close to where they are. So our view from the beginning is Austin can only lose if we don't organize ourselves. Right. If we organize ourselves, these very smart business people will conclude that this is one of the 2 markets that they want to be in as part of this expansion. Yeah. So again, we just wanted to make sure that Austin put its best foot forward, put the strongest bid forward possible. We don't want to let entanglements or other hurdles or poor leadership or whatever prevent us from putting our best foot forward. And anyone that wants to be part of that, we want to be part of this.
Yeah.
There's no pride of authorship here, no pride of ownership. We started it. We're going to announce a pretty significant leadership committee here in about a week, and we're going to keep working towards it.
Yeah, no, and that's amazing. We also have a professional athlete division, and
Cool.
what's cool is we pretty much have an Engel and Volkers franchise in every single city that has a professional sports team.
Yeah.
Except Austin, outside of Austin FC, right? So I know it's something that, Michelle and Steve would probably really want to get involved in because it's so important with our business, just because we do have a lot of NFL players. We have an ex-professional baseball player who sell real estate with their brokerage. And that has always been a dream of theirs. So I think it's something that we as a brokerage would love to get involved with and try to help lead that charge.
Appreciate that. We just had just sorry to interrupt. We just did a Zoom. We're creating a baseball advisory committee that's intended to bring in anyone that's ever worked in baseball, anyone that played baseball in a college in the immediate area, which isn't just UT. It could be Texas State. It could be Southwestern. It could be any number of places.
Could be Baylor.
Could be Baylor, certainly. Or played in the big leagues at any level. And look, I've now talked to Houston Street. I've talked to Jake Arrieta, who's highly motivated and is a World Series champion. We've talked to a number of baseball players. A lot of some of the younger generation of UT baseball players. We're going to be involved in those guys. That's the other thing about this I'm excited about. And I do want to quickly mention this. I made a commitment to Travis County Commissioner Jeff Trevelyan that we're going to make a significant commitment to youth baseball as part of this. And honestly, look, West Austin youth baseball is fine. They don't need anything.
Yeah.
Okay? It's East Austin that needs it. And if you think about it, and I could get emotional thinking about this because it turns into an after-school program. It turns into a way to get kids off the streets, to get them out not joining gangs, to teach them discipline and teamwork and all the values that sports teach us, perseverance and all those things. And so very soon I'm going to go tour on the east side of Austin with Derek, the existing youth baseball facilities that exist east of 35. Right. I want to see all of them. And we want to, I'm going to work very hard with the ownership group to make sure that we make a very specific commitment to upgrading those facilities, to building new fields, to working with youth baseball. Because look, you bring a major league sports team here. Every single person involved in baseball now is far more excited. There's far more enthusiasm. There's far more interest. There's far more money, right? You take a youth baseball league to a baseball game, right? Think about what that's going to do to those kids to be able to see a game in their city,
in person.
Maybe to go into the clubhouse before the game or after, right? Yeah, there's a million different things, right? So we're excited about that aspect of this.
That's amazing.
There's another aspect of this that's fun, which is think about minor league baseball. Like, let's think about this. You have to have 3 teams, and they're going to be 3 new teams. Well, I'm just throwing names out. I haven't done any work on this yet, but let's say we put a team in Belton or Temple or Waco. Let's say we put a team in Elgin or Bastrop. And let's say we put a team in San Marcos or New Braunfels, for example. 1 north, 1 east, 1 south. Well, think about what that's going to do for those communities. Right? You create a new baseball stadium that's going to have 5,000 to 10,000 people, probably in their downtown. It's going to revitalize their downtown. It's going to, create a new community and civic enterprise. It's going to, increase the youth baseball stuff that goes on. There's those communities as well. Creates wealth. Creates all kinds of things. I mean, think about it. It's really exciting when you think about this. It's not just about, wouldn't it be fun to go to a game in Austin? Yes, it's 1,000,000 times bigger than that.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's really. The more I think about it, the more excited I get about the opportunity. And we are bootstrapping this. We're doing this ourselves. We have no budget. We will not do that forever because we can't, but we will do it for a while. And so what we've committed to do is to do a sprint to the end of the year. And if we've made substantial progress, we will keep going.
Right.
If we have not made substantial progress, it may be possible that someone else needs to lead this. But for now, we are really committed. And I will say one last thing. Derek and his wife, Lena, have done a great job of recruiting businesses to support our launch event. I don't know the number right now, but we've got breweries and all kinds of people that have given gift certificates. We're going to have an auction as part of it. We really do want, and of course those businesses are going to want to have relationships if the team comes in and do concessions and be vendors and things like that. And obviously we'd love to help them do that. But we're really confident that as we go down the road, it'll be absolutely clear this community wants to see this happen.
Yeah.
That there's tremendous enthusiasm for this idea. And if that happens, Austin cannot lose. I'm serious. I mean this. Austin cannot lose. We have talked to people in ownership of other teams. We've talked to 2 former deputy commissioners of Major League Baseball. We've talked to baseball greats. We've talked to significant finance people, significant real estate people, government leaders. I've probably done 200 or 300 meetings, either on the phone, on Zoom, or in person, and Derek and I together over the last 3 or 4 months, and we got more to do. But we're really, really, really encouraged.
Yeah.
You don't really know. You think you launch it, maybe nobody cares, maybe nobody thinks it's a good idea, Maybe nobody likes baseball. Those things were possible, outcomes. It has not been what's happened. It really has been extraordinary what we've seen. And that's, again, not with 1 cent of advertising.
Yeah.
Right? So when we start advertising here at some point, which we want to do, we think it's going to be great. And so having an opportunity to talk about it on a podcast like this with your audience is a great opportunity for us.
Yeah. Well, you have just been so dynamic. It's been really impressive to learn about everything you're doing, from Save Austin Now to trying to bring Major League Baseball to Austin. It really is very impressive. And thank you so much for coming today and kind of, telling us about all those kind of organizations and avenues. And hopefully people will come out and they'll sign up and they'll try to help support bringing Major League Baseball to Austin, and go sign up for your newsletter so they can be informed about what is happening in our city.
Absolutely.
So thank you again, Matt. And
Thank you.
hope everyone enjoyed the show. Thanks.